want to marry Anne, sir. I'm sorry, sir. It went down the wrong way. My choking like that must have made it sound a bit more startling than it really was.
It couldn't. Do you realize that Anne is only 19?
Yes, sir.
Do you think she knows her own mind?
I do, sir.
There's no chance that when she's 23, you might not be her ideal of a husband?
You want me to be perfectly frank, sir?
I do.
None whatever.
And, may I ask this permanent ideal of a husband a few questions?
Yes, of course, sir.
Won't you?
Thank you.
What's your job?
I haven't got one.
Does that disturb you?
Well, I've only just come down from university. I haven't offered myself seriously yet. Somebody must want me.
Until this rush for your services begins, on what do you propose to live?
On my savings.
How much are they?
Well, you can count on £50.
You mean my daughter can? Where are you going to live?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Well, I haven't got a house, if that's what you mean.
That's what I did mean.
Oh. Well, who has these days?
Well, there are one or two people undercover.
You laughed with Jack Bogard before. Loved the youth and gaiety of Susan Stephen. You've enjoyed the acid humor of Cecil Parker. Delighted at the charm of Eileen Hurley. Now see them mirror your own hilarious comedy of errors in the everyday story of every man.
Push it as much as you can.
Won't go no further than the wall, miss.
You'll recognize with triumph your friends and neighbors. Miss Mainbrace, for instance.
Could I possibly use your telephone? It is rather urgent.
Mrs. Doyle, the chatty char, and Medlicott, the plumber. And above stairs, there is always Debenham, the estate agent of no estate and little estate.
May I ask what's happening?
My husband is opening a tin.
I see. Well, I'm speaking on behalf of the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th floors. And I've been asked to suggest that when next you entertain, you might notify the date so that other arrangements can be made for the evening.
Next week on Talking Pictures TV. Sky 343, Freeview 81, UView 81, and FreeSat 306.
Hi, I'm Neil Shawn and welcome to a brand new presentation from Macon Productions. The reason why I wanted to speak to you first is it's not a lecture, honestly. I just wanted to tell you how this film evolved and how it came around. In April 2013, we were invited to film the Talk of the Town reunion. Now, if you're new to this and you don't know where the Talk of the Town is, it is a spectacular venue that is now called, of course, the Hippodrome Casino in the heart of London's Leicester Square. Before the Talk of the Town, it was called the Hippodrome Theatre, and it was a huge venue for Stol Moss. Stol Moss, of course, were the #1 touring variety circuit for any artists. And of course, in the late 1950s, TV was making a bit of a dent into theatre attendances. So 3 very clever men, Bernard Delfont, Robert Nesbitt, and of course catering king Sir Charles Forty, all came up with an idea to turn the London Hippodrome into the most spectacular cabaret venue in the world. And they succeeded. Bernie Delfont, of course, is part of the great organisation, and he knew a thing or two about how to create spectacular venues. Theatre producer Robert Nesbitt added his glitz and glamour, and of course the catering was left to Sir Charles Forty. I was lucky enough to know 2 of these people, Sir Charles and Bernard. And Bernard told me one day while we were sat on the North Pier in Blackpool, I have to tell you, the reason for this meeting though was, as ever, Bernard was one of these people who wanted to bring something new to entertainment. And the North Pier Pavilion is the venue that he'd placed his summer seasons for around about 25 years at this period. It was in the early 80s and Bernard had decided to reinstate the tram on the pier. And of course, it was a spectacular production, as you can imagine. Once the tram was launched, we sat at the side eating an ice cream in a very blisteringly hot sunny afternoon. Bernard sat there looking immaculate, of course, in one of his spectacular suits, and that famous bouffant hair, not moving in the Blackpool wind. He told me how he came up with the idea for the Talk of the Town and the reason why he wanted to do it. He also put across a few rumours that I'd already read about, even at that young age. The idea, though, really was he knew that theatre was slightly down in the variety circuits, but Bernard wondered if he could change it by having people sit, eat and relax and then enjoying a spectacular show around about 11 o'clock, whether they would come out in the capital. He was proved right. Of course, he presented many major stars there. Everybody that you can imagine, from Cliff Richard, Tom Jones, Shirley Bassey, to people like Matt Monro and international stars like Sammy Davis Jr. He also spoke about the final ever London appearance of another great, Judy Garland. She appeared there in the early part of 1969. And of course, he said that, well, there were many reports that she was difficult. He actually never found that to be the case. He said that she was a very demanding star, but just demanding on herself, not necessarily on the people around her. And yes, she did turn up late on a few occasions, but what's been proven now is there are some released recordings, and when you hear those recordings, you can tell that Judy was in spectacular form. Bernard himself said that he really enjoyed his time working with her. Sadly, as I say, it would be the last performance ever for Judy in London. We were also lucky enough recently to meet Lorna Luff, the daughter of Judy Garland, who verified just how much she'd enjoyed that final season. Bernard himself said that he loved the fact that one night she invited up Danny LaRue, of course the great female impersonator, and he apparently nearly stole the show off Judy, which made her book her game up too. He told me there's nothing like putting two performers together on the stage to make sure that you get the best out of each of them. The Talk of the Town sadly closed in the early part of the 80s, and one of the final acts to ever appear there, in fact the final act, was the one and only, the brilliant Mr. Joe Longthorne, who also came into the studio to tell us all about it. Joe himself said that he holds himself responsible for the closure. It's not true at all. He's a spectacular star. So what you're going to see on this DVD is exactly what we filmed on the day. We saw many famous faces, Sir Bruce Forsyth, Vince Hill, Anita Harris, and many more. I hope you enjoy the party as much as we enjoyed filming it. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the Talk of the Town reunion. Thank you for watching.
I'm going to return to the title Fantastico later. Representatives from so many fields, dancers, showgirls, backstage crew, musicians, musical directors. When we set out on this journey, none of us had any idea whether we would get enough interest. Of course, we also have to offer our very, very grateful thanks to Simon for his amazing hospitality. I'm sure you all agree that his new venture in giving the Hippodrome yet another life has been quite extraordinary. I've been very privileged to see it as it's being built, and I think it is as trailblazing, glamorous, adventurous and stylish as the Hippodrome has been in all of its previous lives. Absolutely. And I'm sure you'll all join me in wishing him and everybody who works here a huge success for many years to come.
It's very much an equal partner and very much part of it and a lot of me. But on behalf of my father and I think we all really ought to just give a huge thank you to Rosalind. She sent me a letter out of the blue and came and went on a hard hat tour in the middle of a very active building site, and that was followed up with a second hard hat tour with quite a few people who are here tonight. And so Rosalind's been here the whole way through, but she has put an enormous amount of work into this afternoon, evening. I think we should all give her an enormous thank you.
What does the Talk of the Town mean to you?
Oh, many, many years of my life, night after night here, holding the hands of the artists, booking the artists with my partner Billy Marsh, my uncle Bernard Delphon. Every week a new adventure here. There were so many stories. Judy Garland, Stevie Wonder, Diana Ross and the Supremes, Sammy Davis, you name it, they came here.
My memories are the most wonderful theatre cabaret to work in, of Robert Nesbitt, of Robert and my darling husband working together with the lighting, making it so special. My first season were very embryonic moments, and then I came back 5 times, and each time the act grew, and the audiences, I mean, one night you come out and the whole audience would be Japanese, you know, need a horse. And but they would go, after the ball, so whatever I was doing, you know. It was a mesmeric place to work, with all of the history of the Frank Matcham Theatre, of vaudeville. Even though it was a modern arena, you felt the ghosts of past and present.
Oh, in the Talk of the Town, I enjoyed playing here as much as the Palladium, because the Talk of the Town was cabaret at its best. You had a beautiful stage that came up out of the floor. You had all the people sitting around you, wonderful contact, and it was the most wonderful place to work, and the biggest names in the world came to work here. I think I held the record with dear Frankie Vaughan as the most performances ever done here. So that was something to be proud of. A great place, and I think the way they've preserved it, although it's a casino now, they've kept the shape of the old London Hippodrome, which is marvellous. I think looking around, they've done a great job. A great job.
Oh, well, I've got some fantastic memories, because I was one of the regulars here, you know. I must have done it through the 70s, well, the late 60s and 70s. I mean, it was when it started getting hits, particularly. And I must have done, well, about 2 or 3 times a year. Well, it seems like that in retrospect anyway. But I was very often here. It's always a thrill. One of the greatest moments, when you can tell how long ago it was, my son is 41 now, and I was here the week that he was born, and Annie, my wife, bless her, she was about to produce, and she wanted to come to my opening night. And the gynecologist said, there's only one way you're going to go and see him on opening night, and that's it. If I come with you. And he came, and he sat with her, watched the show, and he had Charing Cross or one of the hospitals in London standing by, just in case anything happened, you know. So,
what a memory
that was. Yeah. And then, actually, he was born that week that I was here. And at the same time, I had a hit record. Would you believe it? Yeah.
Yeah, oh, memories are marvellous. It was a wonderful venue to play. It was a most professional venue, and it played all the big ones. I booked an act called Ronnie Jukes and Ricky Lee here for a long... Yeah, they did a month here and did very well.
Young girls wrote to me. Everybody seemed to have time to devote to me. Everyone I saw swore they knew me. Once upon a song, main attraction, you couldn't buy a seat. I was celebrity, celebrities would die to meet. I got every accolade bestowed on me, and so you see, If I never sing another song, even bother me, I've had my share of fame, and you know my name. If I never sing another song or take another bow, I will get by, but I'm not sure, no, I'm not sure how. Always posing, but you loved it all. Though I had to learn to act like I'm way above it all. Everything I did, the world applauded me. Once upon a star, print citations hung on every wall. I've got a scrapbook full of quotes, I can't recall them all. There was a time when I thought all the world belonged to me, and so you see, if I never sing another song, even bother me, I've had my share of fame, and you know my name. If I never sing another song, no, you would bother me. I will get by, but I'm not sure. You know I'm not sure how. Thank you.
Judy Garland loved playing here. I mean, the biggest and the best worked in this beautiful place. And it was cabaret at its best because you've got, I think it seated about 800 or 900, I'm not sure now, but with the circle full as well. And you know, some nights you go on and you see the audience all smiling, no laughter, just smiling, and then afterwards you found out they were all Japanese. So they were smiling, but no laughs. They never laughed.
For entertainers, there's only two places to work, and that's the Talk of the Town and the Palladium, both of which, happily, in my long career, I have managed to get there. And but waiting at the showgirls and all that went on at 9:30 here, the cabaret show. Yeah, well, I knew quite a few of them. Annie and myself, I will say, knew quite a few of them. But no, it was always lovely, and it was like clockwork, which is what I loved. The theatre show finished at 10:30. You had half an hour, and you were down waiting on the side of the stage, and it would be like clockwork. 11 o'clock, you go on, and that fanfare starts. As Phil played a little bit earlier, if you were here, la da 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 da. That's it. Oh yeah. And the first time you work here, to walk out to that microphone, it seems like about a mile long. You know, you think I'm never going to get there. But it was just wonderful. That's it. Always will be. It just made you feel like a star. You knew what you were there for. You're going to go on tonight. It's you. You're at the sharp end. It's you. You are the star. And you always felt like it. And to talk always made you feel like it. Always.
Your act was recorded, so
Yes.
you're a rare one, really, because I've seen it, and it's a brilliant show, I have to say, but I was sort of thinking, that was very fortuitous for you to record that, because lots of people don't have their act.
Well, to be honest, I hadn't thought about that. It is a very special time of my life, and I think the time, I think it was the 3rd season that was recorded, and kind of blossoming into how I wanted my act to be. Because I started as a dancer in Las Vegas.
With Frank Sinatra?
Well, not with him, but I saw him.
I saw you in the matchroom room, teasing.
Okay, but in the same, on the strip were Mae West, Louis Prima, Keely Smith, and Sinatra, as you say. And we started doing 3 shows a night, and I was 16 years old. But they've all stayed on my shoulder. Seeing Sinatra live is the most amazing. Those blue eyes that just bored into, of course he was only singing for me, you know. Fly me to the moon. All together now.
We're always in that.
Sorry, love.
Fly me to the moon. Let me play up there with the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, please be true. In other words, baby, kiss me. Fill my heart with song. Let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you. Jump, hop. Jump, jump, jump. Shooby-dooby-dooby-doo. Beautiful. Why don't you fill my heart with song? Let me swing forevermore. Because you are all I long for, all I worship and do adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love. Don't rush me. You.
I've been so lucky working with Harry Seacombe and Tommy Cooper, all at the Palladium, and Clive Dunn, and they're all sitting on my shoulder, you know, because they're part of my spirit. They were my learning curve. So
we interviewed the lovely Liz Fraser recently,
right.
From Carry On, and we were looking in an internet poll, and you are voted the sexiest brunette, and she's voted the sexiest Carry On blonde.
Oh, brilliant!
And what's your memories of Liz Fraser? Can you remember, you know, as a
we're good friends. Her birthday is August the 15th, which I never forget because it was near my parents' wedding anniversary. And no, she's a fine actress, and I think the whole of the team of Carry On, they were so carefully picked by the producer and director because of their solidness in their acting, and then the comedic side came out through their characters. And one of the first lessons I learned was, if you think you're funny, you're not. You just say the lines, believe in it, and then it will become funny, you know, hopefully.
I started life as a sports writer, but my dad was taken ill and I had to go in the family business. And I was lucky enough to be apprenticed to one of the great agents, Billy Marsh. And Billy had the responsibility for booking the talk of the town. And he and I, you know, worked together for many happy years. He taught me the business, and I remember him fondly. He's buried, his ashes are buried underneath the stage at the Palladium.
I got that role because I was working with Frankie Howard across the road from here at the Prince of Wales, and the director Jerry Thomas and Peter Rogers, the producer, came to see him to talk about the Carry-On, and they saw me work on stage with him, and that's how I got. The first one was Carry On, Follow That Camel, which was a dancer's role because I was dancing a lot in that show. And then Jerry Thomas really took me under his wing as an actress. And so I thank him very, very much. He allowed me to find myself in that character and made me feel real, made me feel like a nurse.
What was Phil Silvers like? He must have worn you out in it. I mean, he must have like...
He did, but you know, off camera, we sat a lot because a lot of our scenes were together. He was a very gentle soul. And he missed his family. He was talking about his daughters a great deal. But the red light went on and wham, that incredible energy. Just, you could see it like spin through him, you know?
Now, one of the things that is always associated with you is how you saved the North Pier in Blackpool from burning down. Now, we all love the pavilion in Blackpool, but what you were leaving the theatre, tell me that.
Well, I was leaving the theatre, and what happened was, I'm usually fairly quick getting out. My motto is get in, get on and get out, you know, as quick as I can. I was leaving, quite late, that for some reason or other. I got held up. Anyway, I was just walking up the pier, me and somebody else, I can't remember. Might have been, no, it wasn't Annie, I don't think, no. So I was meeting her somewhere. And I looked back like that as we were going by, and I could see all the back of the theatre was starting to burn up. So, I mean, it was comic cuts in the end. Because I think it was Les Dennis.
No pressure, though, for you.
No pressure. I think it was Les Dennis and myself. I can't remember now, it was a long time ago. And we got these hose pipes. You know the hose pipes that are always on the pier like that? And, of course, you haven't got the nozzle, so you get no power. That nozzle has to be screwed on. Well, there was no nozzle there, but we thought, well, we better do something. So we turned the water on. I held it like that. And, you know, they come up both ways like that. The water came up that way. It's hilarious when you look back on it now, but we called the fire brigade and they got there pretty quickly, and they got there by boat as well, and they put it out, but it cut the capacity down by about half. I mean, that was a sort of 1,000, 1,200 seater. We played to 600 the rest of the year, the rest of that season. And it was a long one as well. It went into October. I thought this was never going to end. Walking up the North Pier like this against the wind, you know.
My first album I ever bought was Little Me, the cast album.
Oh my goodness, that's going back a bit.
Remember the orange cover?
Did you say you loathed it or you loved it? I thought you said you loathed it.
Loved it.
Oh, let's see, no, it's North Country, see, it's North Country.
Seriously, right. I think we should redo that show.
It was a marvellous show.
I never saw it because I was too young the first time.
It was a most wonderful show, the best probably straight thing I've ever done. Yeah, apart from the Generation Game.
But the songs were so memorable. That's
well, I mean, you had two of the best writers in the world for musicals. I mean, they were wonderful. And Neil Simon wrote the script. So how can you better Neil Simon? So it was a wonderful project. And I actually, Neil Simon came over and I worked with him in Bournemouth where I was doing summer seasons. I worked with him to anglicise the show. And fun enough, it was better anglicising it than it was as an American show, because we had Camden Town as the one side of the tracks, and we had Hampstead, which was the other side of the tracks, and that's what the show was all about, class distinction.
What is so lovely is that not only has the beautiful Sir Bruce arrived, and Barbara Windsor, and stars Madeline Bell and Vince that you've just seen, but also the dancers, the musicians. There's Colin Keys over there, musicians and backstage people, you know, and Rosalind Wilder has done a wonderful job to bring back the flavour and the feeling of how it was, which was a bit special.
I grew up with variety people. You know, my two uncles, Lou and Bernie, were hoofers in variety. And everybody who worked in the business in those days had been on the stage pretty much. They were all ex-vaudevillians. And so we used to sit around for hours and I used to hear the stories. And I mean, that program, we've only scratched the surface of that whole world. What's important to remember, we all remember the funny stories and the anecdotes, but it was a hard, lonely life, traveling around the country, doing variety. Different town every week, never getting home, you don't see your kids. It was a tough life.
I'd enjoyed Moth immensely. It's a marvellous business. Let's be rude. Our business is like sex. If it's good, it's wonderful. If it's bad, it's still quite nice. That's the best way I can explain it. The situation is that, do I miss performing? Not really at all. I miss the dressing room. I miss the hanging out and the talking. That I miss. But on the other hand, when an artist comes to you and say, well, this deal, Kenny, you know what you've done? You paid for my flat, you paid for my car, I've got money in the bank. That's much more worth to me than commission or anything. That's what makes it good.
Talking Pictures TV.